Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Concord Township Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 5th. Fairly full agenda this evening, so we'll get started. Agenda item 1 is a public hearing for zoning amendment application number 031-3 by 44 Partnership, requesting a rezone of 3.4864 acres of land on Crowell Road from R2 planned use development zoning to BX business interchange zoning. Is the applicant here or a representative?
Yes.
If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mark Georgie with Route 44 LLC, 8109 Crowell Road.
And do you want to just take us through your application, or if you have anything for us to
I don't know if you can have a copy of the application, but we're looking history on this property. It was owned by Quail Hollow Development years ago.
Okay.
I think at one point they were going to do a southerly entrance into their property, decided not to. Came to us and said, we have no use for the property. It abuts to you guys. You want to buy it? We bought the property. Haven't done anything with it over the years. 84 Lumber came to us last year and requested the property behind them if we were able to sell to them. And we said yes, but they said only if we were able to go back to or be rezoned to BX. So that's kind of why we're here trying to get the property. And it's R2 surrounded by BX on the one side, R1 on the other. And want to clean up the zoning, I think.
Okay. Excuse me. Any questions from the board?
Not present.
None here. No? Good. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and read into the record. We received a letter from the Lake County Planning Commission dated May 30th to the township, to Heather Freeman. I'll just read it in for the record. Regarding this application, dear Ms. Freeman, the Lake County Planning Commission took under consideration the above mentioned zoning district change at their regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, May 29th, 2018. The Lake County Planning Commission recommended the district amendment be approved with no additional stipulations. And we are available to help with any aspect of this recommendation or any questions. Please feel free to call Dave Radaschi, Director, or Joseph Rose, Planner 1. Okay, you can have a seat. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to call up anybody present that has anything to speak on this matter, either for or against it. We can just. Okay, nobody coming forth from the audience. Discussion amongst the board. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'd make a motion to close it.
Second?
I second.
Motion carries. Discussion?
None?
Go forward.
No,
Okay.
take it straightforward.
All right, I will go ahead and entertain a motion to approve this rezone.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
We could make sure that we make the motion to recommend approval to the trustees.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They will then in turn hold their own additional public hearing on that.
So, to that point, do I have a motion to make a recommendation to the trustees for this rezone?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we recommend to the trustees in favor of this zoning change.
Second?
Second.
Call the roll.
We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Schindler?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes?
Mr. Mossick?
Yes.
Mr. Ruppert?
Yes.
And Mr. McIntosh?
Yes. Okay, Moving on to our second agenda item this evening, site plan review for application number 033, Mr. David Knott of Icon Realty LLC, requesting a site plan approval for the proposed addition to the Anytime Fitness building located at 9950 Johnny Cake Ridge Road, and being permanent parcel number 10-A-0-028-0-00-002-0. Is the applicant or representative available this evening? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's David Knott, and I'm part owner of the property at 9950 Johnny Cake Ridge Road in Concord.
Okay, do you want to take us through your application and what's your...
Yeah, we're requesting a site plan approval. We're fully tenanted over there at our building complex. I actually built the building complex, not just being part owner, but I did the building. And I think we did a great job with the building. It's all split base on all four sides, and we did a nice quality job with the building in itself. We have a really great tenant over there named going under Anytime Fitness, who's done a great job in the community. They really became highly visible, and business is good, and they came to us and said, hey, we need a little more space for a special type of workout for group workouts. And we have the space there, and it's actually behind everything. You don't even know it's there, but it's a 1,000 square foot addition on the far west corner of the rear building, and the addition construction is going to match the existing building 100%, so when we're finished, it'll probably look like it was never added on. So all three sides are going to be the same utility brick with the same split base, same roof lines, same colors. So we just want to basically make sure that, the work's going to be just as much as the quality of what was already there.
Okay. Any questions from the
Yeah,
board?
I noticed in our staff analysis, there is an issue about it being very close to a water line. Did you see that? It says the addition's west-facing wall would rest within a couple feet of an existing water line. Access for construction crews would be difficult with only 35 feet of building separation between Anytime Fitness and the adjacent building. Do you see that as an issue? Or?
No, there's a 2-inch line. It goes, actually, the line goes right down through the buildings.
Okay.
And feeds into the mechanical rooms.
Okay.
So we have OOPS coming out in 2 days. We're going to locate everything, and if we have to make any sort of an adjustment, if we feel,
Okay.
but we're going to use a small machine in there, secondly,
Yeah.
to do the digging,
Okay.
and we're going to put the dirt in a skid steer that'll put it into a small dump truck. So we're going to have minimal impact in there.
Okay.
But, we're going to make sure that everything from the gas, electrical, all the lines are all located before we dig, and if we see there's an issue, we'll make the adjustment to it.
Fair enough, thank you.
I noticed on your project description here that the addition will match, and I know how you feel, but I think you mean the existing building, not the exciting building.
Well, the new addition will match the existing
The
building.
existing building.
Architecture and
Okay. That-
all of the facades.
I knew that.
Yes.
The other question I had is, the addition goes right over an existing grease trap.
Well, when I built the building, and it was easy at that time to put one in the ground. And I was part owner of a restaurant called Gobby's in Willoughby when we opened it. I was one of the original partners. And the grease trap went outside. It's a big cement vault. It's heavy duty, and they're quite heavy. I thought, let's put one in now. We may never use it, and it never got used because we thought if we ever had a restaurant go back where Anytime is, I put the underground in at that time, just in case it happened. I didn't want to go back in and try to bring it in later and tear it up, so we put it in at that time. It's never
been used.
Never been used. Our thoughts are, we're still going to, in the floor, we're going to put a control joint where the access hole would be, so that, let's just say 15 years from now, a restaurant wanted to go in there, well, we could still have access to use it, but it's empty at this point.
And then the same thing with the cleanouts that you're going over?
Yeah, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna put, kind of like an expansion joint around those three locations.
Okay.
And that way, we talked about that tonight. We had a site meeting, and when they carpet over it, you're not gonna feel it, but they're not gonna be able to notice it. But if we ever wanted to use that one day, I don't wanna close that opportunity up because we spent a lot of money to get it in there.
Okay. All my questions.
And then you share the parking with Remax, and then parking's not affected?
No, that was all done in the beginning. When we first came in there, we actually had a permanent easement filed that we let Remax, actually, they park on our property. So what we did, we let them park there, and we got, their parking also, so we combined them permanently. So, we have more than enough parking, yeah. And the only thing it's gonna do for any time, it's not going to be adding any more employees. They strictly have a use to do group workouts, and the space they have inside right now isn't large enough. All this is gonna do is make them more user-friendly for their organization, and we just want to accommodate them. They've been a great tenant.
So you say group, where is it, are they adding the ability to have, so you're saying the way it's configured now, I've been by them, it's got the equipment and so forth, and they're expanding to provide another option, more use for their members, is that kind of what it's?
Where they have group sessions there now, but they're tight.
Okay.
So the room they're using is not as big as they need it to be.
Okay.
So all they're going to do is, they have group sessions there. This would be more user-friendly for them because of the way they're marketing their organization. And I think also the owner is opening up a new facility on Menor Avenue. It's about preparing food, eating better, things that she's getting involved in. So Vaughn and his daughter are very active in the Lake County community, and I think they raised over $100,000 last year for good purposes. So they're really doing a good job there.
So you don't see their use changing at all? That's kind of my question, is that it's the same amount of clientele, same amount of people sort
Yes.
of going into the building now. It isn't really, it's like, oh, they've added this and 10 more people an hour kind of thing. We're
No.
not expecting that kind of response.
I don't think.
Any other comments or discussion?
No, they covered my questions.
I see no downside.
No, I don't either.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You all set?
Yeah. Okay, I think no further discussion or other points. I can entertain a motion to approve this application.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the site plan review application number 0333
As submitted,
as indicated on the agenda.
as submitted.
Second?
I second.
Heather, call the roll, please.
Mr. Ruppert?
Yes.
Mr. Mosevich?
Yes.
Mosick? Mr. Peterson?
Yes?
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
And Mr. Schindler?
Yes,
The application was approved.
Okay. Carrying along, we have, the next two agenda items are related, so we'll go with we'll start with the next one, which is a site plan review application, number 34, Mr. Bob Caravona of Hawkins Companies LLC is requesting a site plan approval for proposed retail building located at 11129 Gold Court and being permanent parcel 08-A-020-B-00-001-0. Is it?
you have to turn the lights down, I think. Please. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioner members. Bob Caravona, I'm the pre-development project manager with Hawkins Companies. My Drive, suite number 160, Tempe, Arizona. However, I'm a former Clevelander for 30 years. It's great to be back here this weekend and relative's first birthday party. So it's fun all around. Any rate, so the request tonight is the case 34 for a site plan review. The property is located at 11129 Gold Court. It is a 3,000 square foot retail building, and it is for Verizon. We had a non-disclosure agreement, so there was a little need for quietness or silence over this, but now that we're in front of the council, we're able to present that. The franchise owner and operator is Cellular Sales of Knoxville. They have about 300 stores across the nation, highly respected, and I'm very pleased to present their project for them. We are the developers of the project, and they will be the tenant. Just to give you a little background of Hawkins Companies, we've been in business since 1970s, and we've built in 26 states and have roughly 11 million square feet of commercial development, and typically we retain about 38 to 40% of that, of what we build. Not only do we do retail, but we also build hotels, office complexes, residential projects, movie theaters, charter schools, storage. So we're a well-rounded developer who has been able to survive the recessions over a number of years because of our conservative approach to development. Briefly on the screen is the general plan, and it does show the area of the subject site, which is on Crowell Road and Gold Court, at the intersection of that. And what I'm showing is that it complies, the use complies with your general plan, that you're directing commercial retail or commercial development to this area, and this is commercial land use. Moving on, the aerial photo shows the subject area, and as you are aware, to the north is the Crowell Crossing retail, and then the property is vacant, as well as to the east, and the south is Crowell Hardware, and then to the west is Crowell Road and Route 44. The following screen is the development standards for the BX business interchange zoning districts. In that column, you'll see the requirements, and on the far right column, you'll see the proposed, what's being proposed. We meet all the development standards for this district. We more than satisfy to the benefit of the community by providing more open space, more landscaping, greater setbacks, etc. Parking for this project requires 12 spaces. We are providing 26. There are 2 handicap spaces, whereas the requirement is 1. Within your packet, you do have a site plan, and this is just a quick, easy read to show what the setbacks are. The front setback, highlighted in green, is approximately 68 feet. The rear setback is 104, that's shown in red. And then the side yard setbacks are 25 and 94 feet respectively, and that is in yellow and blue. You also see that the access is off Gold Court, and that's the primary and only access to the site. We have worked with staff in working with the code to provide distinct parking areas, and that is developed based on your code, that you have certain landscape areas, landscape islands between there, and so I think it turned out actually very nice in how this has been segmented. Also, these parking areas, you'll see that they have sidewalks to two entrances to this building. So there's 2 entrances. One to the east, and then one to the south. And what I'll later get into is that our building also has 4-sided architecture, so there's no blank walls, and that's important, so you have a very good aesthetic appeal to this. And this site really laid out nicely in terms of parking lots and how the building is designed. Also just wanted to point out, and this is an important aspect of it, there's some rather large easements throughout this property that also create this deeper setback. You have a 20-foot sanitary and 12-foot underground utility easements in the front, followed by a detention easement. And then that detention is also served by approximately, I believe it was 20-foot drainage easement to the north. And then recently, the gas line, we added a gas easement because the gas line was constructed outside of the utility easement, but that has now been recorded and that satisfies that requirement for the utility company. And they have been good to work with. In terms of landscape plan, you do have your staff analysis that Heather wrote up that she had concerns about the serpentine mound to the south. And after looking at it, I do agree with it in her assessment. And so we have gone back to our landscape architect and asked him to revise that. Then also she had requested that we plant autumn blaze and maple trees in lieu of the triumph elms. And so we did go back to our architect and we did a quick adjustment. And as you can see, we did adjust the mounds to the south. Subsequent conversation today with Heather is that she'd also like to see the mounding along Crowd Road. In response, we'll take a look at it, see if we can do it, but we have to be cognizant of the utility easements that are located there. If we're able to build upon the 12-foot utility easement, a mounding, and what type of planting is allowed in those areas. We don't have any heartburn about that. We just need to do a little bit more research to make sure we can comply with staff's desires and the township's desires. I also failed to point out that along, I'm sorry, there is a pole sign along the front corral, and you'll see the little landscape area around it. And I should have pointed that out in the site plan. Within your staff reports and in your package, you do have a photometric. The parking light is 17 feet height, and it does comply with the town standards. Also, there are 8 wall-mounted light fixtures at the corners to provide an aesthetic architecture in those areas. And then also,
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
The one thing I noticed on here is that your south entrance is very dark.
That's a good observation on the photometrics. And you'll see that roughly at the southwest corner, you have a 9.8 lumen. For you to say. However, you got to recall that you do have a storefront between there. It's clear anodized, it's a clear glazing, and so you'll get some interior lighting making that announcement that this is the entrance, this is where you need to go. So it's not as dark as you would think the photometric would show, because the photometric study does not account for interior lights.
Correct. Okay.
And this is just a black line elevation. You'll note that the building height is 22 feet 7 inches, and it does hide the roof mechanicals behind the parapets. There is wainscoting stacked stone to the foundation around all 4 sides. This is the 4-sided architecture which I'm referring to. There's also a 6-inch building movement of those parapets from the wall, so it gives you some dimension to that. And then, of course, color elevations are provided, and I did the color board here to bring around. We worked together with staff. We initially came with a black and gray building as corporate colors and identity with Verizon. Staff wanted to be more reflective of surrounding development and communities, earth tones. So then we came back with what's been approved, these colors and rock material with the Holiday Inn that's currently being under construction just east of the site down by the cul-de-sac. So the colors, that doesn't, sorry, the television folks, actually doesn't well represent it. So first it is It is a brown, web gray, your typical gray.
Outer
Tan,
Banks.
it's called Outer Banks, that's the main body, and as far right is a canvas material over the awnings. And that's a true brown. And it's a stacked stone, similar to the Holiday Inn. I also provided a sign package. What you'll see on the screen, not as well on the projector, is that there's some dashed lines around these gray areas, and that's where the sign envelope is. I provided a sign analysis to Heather of what's allowed in terms of square footage. Our vendor, our franchisor doesn't typically max out. They see what's appropriate to the scale of the sides of the building, but this defines where they can hang the signs. And those would be wall-mounted signs. There are 3 locations on this, 2 of the 2 entrances and then 1 to the front. So you have a roadside presence. For sidewalks, you have a pedestrian.
I have a question on the signage. Is it Verizon or is it cellular sales?
It would be Verizon.
Verizon. The red?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And with that, we request your approval for this project. And if there's any questions, I'm available.
Any questions from the board?
I did, you said there'll be a pole sign out front.
Yes.
You're requesting different
I'm
signage.
going to walk over there. The pole sign, by code, you're allowed 30 feet in height, 80-foot max. As a corner lot, you get a bonus. You be able to orient the sign certainly so it orients down the street, both sides of the street, and so forth. We had put in a request for discussion, and the maximum allowed is 140 square foot for a pole sign. So that's the request, but that's a separate zoning permit that then goes through staff to review for that. Probably most likely it won't be 140 square feet. I did drive around, especially down Quile in that area, and 84 Lumbers, roughly, I think they were roughly around 25 and 80 square foot. Drug Mart, they have a sheeting around their pole on the base. I recall they were maybe 80 feet. McDonald's has an off-premise sign as well. So we'll ask what's permitted by the township.
I have a question. You indicated that you are providing more parking than that's required.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Business.
No, the only reason I have,
No, I don't need to be like that.
you anticipate you're going to need it because of more business.
Typically, we're around 22 to 23 spaces for these types of retail. There's also, when you start playing with how the code is set up, you have to have a certain amount of landscaping and to your parking. And it actually works to a detriment when you do a code analysis to this, is that to meet your code requirements, you should be providing more parking, because in your perimeter landscaping, is that requirement not there. But I think what you'll find on this site plan is that you have this whole area. We were looking to this area over here to develop, but as a secondary building, but speaking with staff, meeting that requirement would be difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. But instead, you have all this green space now. So you have more parking than minimum requirement, but that's a city minimum requirement. That doesn't say what your business needs.
Well, the only reason I ask is, the trend is, of course, nowadays is to do away with less asphalt and concrete and put in more, trees and things like that to absorb the moisture and water from excessive amount of rain that we've been getting since the global warming has supposedly started. So me personally, I prefer to see more trees and grass and do away with so much asphalt that doesn't necessarily have to be, taking care of that kind of a situation. Like we did here in the township, right here, our own parking, with the landscaping that was done here to help minimize runoff and absorb that kind of water rather than going into areas for flooding, for example. So that's why I asked. When someone says, we're providing more, yes, but at the detriment of, do you really need it? In the sense, I'd rather see green and trees and shrubs and ground cover rather than just asphalt just sitting out there collecting, especially a lot of moisture when it rains hard.
Yes.
My only question.
And I do agree with you, and respectfully, where our coverage is only 28% in the pervious area, whereas as a property owner in this zoning district, you're allowed to coverage up to 70%.
Right.
So we really pull back on that, and then also not having the additional building and the additional parking. You have a bunch of green space, grass that joins the property, so I think we go over 100-some plants, material, if I recall correctly, so
Okay. Well, the only reason I ask is because you made the comment.
Yes.
Well, we're only required to put this much in there for,
Oh, it's not a, this is good.
well, I understand. If everyone wants to more or less, consider that, we're going to have more, hope we have more business. But there's a lot of times that parking lot can sit there for eons afterwards and never being used. And it's plowed and everything all the time, but it's never being used, so.
But the
perhaps-
parking's nice if you're shopping.
Well, if you're shopping, yes. That's my question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. With respect to the landscaping, and maybe first to get some clarification from Heather on the, going back to the frontage of Crowell Road with respect to the mounding. And I was just curious that, he mentioned something about they were gonna evaluate it, and I was curious on your recommendation. Is it consistent with, say, what's in front of Crowell Crossing, or can you elaborate a little bit on what you're requesting that they do as far as the landscaping?
Well, the landscaping section of the zoning resolution requires that the front of the lot be mounded and landscaped with deciduous trees and shrubs in between. And when you're a corner lot, unfortunately, you have to do both sides. So the comment in regards to actually providing that landscaping along Crowell Road is a requirement of the zoning resolution. I think we'd be a little bit flexible on the mounding per se, because typically the mounding is to screen parking, which there's no parking in the front. But if we could get a few of the deciduous trees and the shrubs planted within that front yard area, then the code would be met, the intent of the code would be met, and yeah, it would comply with the zoning, in my opinion.
Yes, and we don't see a problem with that, to meet that. And that's,
What are the hours of operation with respect to the Verizon store? What are they typically?
typically around 10 to 8.
Okay. So, to sort of expand on Frank's comments with respect to the parking and there's two sort of compelling issues that we are facing right now that tie into parking. One of them is the runoff and the stormwater management, which is not just unique to Concord Township, but a lot of places are dealing with this issue. So we spent a lot of time in this board working on that issue. And something that came up in the conversation with this and seeing that where this area is developing, and I guess you're saying that your parking, the number of spaces you're allocating are being driven by the business model of the plan. It's the anticipated demand by who you're building this for. And I'm just curious, because we're always managing storm water runoff and that sort of thing, and then demands of parking, and there's something else in that conversation we had, which was shared parking, and we don't know everything that's going in there. There's a lot of development. We just had another applicant that had a reciprocal agreement with a neighboring tenant as far as sharing. And do you have any temperature on where your client would be seeing the direction is if they ended up at a point where they have excess parking, is that, and they've got some land, I mean, you know, if we get into situations like that, is that something they're amenable to? Because we're trying to manage all these different demands of parking requirements. We have to watch stormwater runoff, and you know that is often a solution we can use to sort of mitigate these problems.
I should ask Mark what's being developed adjacent. But we did go through a similar iteration with this development project because we wanted to go to that side. So now we have this leftover land.
Right.
And now we also have to meet a minimum requirement for lot area requirement.
Right.
You have a 1A, so we can't parcel it off.
Right.
So now
You're kind of stuck with that land.
You're stuck.
Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that you
Yeah.
turn it into parking or anything like that, but I'm just suggesting if it turns out you overbuild your parking or you find, I mean, we don't, like I said, there's in theory a lot of development going to come to that area, and that's a healthy amount of spots that your
Yes.
tenant will have.
And as Hawkins companies, we approach other developers as well. And it's not an unusual request to go out and say, when you share parking, you're happy to do that. So it's something that we're not afraid of. We do it regularly. We ask. We also get requests.
So, I mean, right now, that extra land isn't really being held extra from the standpoint of developing it. I guess I wasn't told. It's just the leftover space, and you're leaving it green.
Yes.
Okay.
Heather, question. The conditional approval we had recommended before was predicated on landscape changes which have now been made up here. Can we now go for full approval?
I think we still would need to make a motion with one condition that we look at
The
requiring,
90?
doing the deciduous trees and shrubs along the Crowell Road.
Okay.
Frontage.
Okay, so it should still be conditional based on,
You don't have to.
Okay.
You can probably do it as a courtesy.
We'll probably amend that condition with.
okay.
You think these people okay.
Any discussion?
No, I think it's a positive development for Concord.
And there's just one entrance and exit, right? Is that correct? And it's 24
Yeah.
feet?
You had mentioned something about the mound on Crowell Road and a planting on the mound? But that's a right-of-way though, isn't it?
Oh, maybe I'll explain it. It's outside of the right of way on the private property, where the applicant was showing where there is a 20-foot sanitary sewer and a 12-foot utility easement before you get to the detention basin that fronts on Crowell.
Okay.
They had some concerns on what they could plant in there, so they wanted to do a little bit more checking as to whether or not they could do the trees and shrubs that we were requiring in that
Okay.
area. It's still
So
on the
it's
private property.
outside the right-of-way?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, and as a reminder, as we're going through this, we have two different aspects of the agenda. We have the site plan review application, and then we have the design review, so that's two separate, separate aspects of this application that we have to address. So, okay, and any other questions, discussion, or?
No, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we conditionally approve site plan review application number 034 for the proposed retail building with the requirement of the completion of the landscape plan on Crowell Road.
Second?
I second.
Heather, you call the roll, please?
Mr. Schindler?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes?
Mr. Mossett?
Yes.
Mr. Ruppert?
Yes.
Okay, and moving on to the fourth item on our agenda will be the design review application number 34 of Hockey Company for the property located at 11129 Gold Court and being permanent parcel number 08-A-020-B-00-001-0. Do I have a motion to approve the design review?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the design review application number 034 for the proposed retail building at 11129 Gold Court.
And a second?
I'll second.
Everybody call the roll, please.
Mr. Ruppert?
Yes.
Mr. Mossett?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes?
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
And Mr. Schindler?
Yes.
Okay. And the fifth item on our agenda tonight is a work session for the Town Hall Neighborhood and Town Hall Common Districts, which is currently tabled. So I will move on to approval of the minutes for the May 1st, 2018 meeting.
That was real long.
Mr. Chairman, I so move that we accept the meeting from May 1st as written.
And
I'll second that motion.
and all in favor?
I'll abstain.
Aye.
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 And I will also abstain as I was not here, so. 3 ayes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
2 abstentions, yeah.
Okay.
And correspondence of the zoning commission members, Rich?
I had nothing.
Hiram?
Nothing.
Sue?
Nope.
Nothing, Mr.
Right.
Chairman.
And
No,
I didn't either.
it's quiet.
Okay, at this point, item number 8 is our audience participation portion of the meeting. That's open to general public comment for the zoning commission members to hear comment from the community. Is there anybody present that would like to address the board today? Okay, moving through things quickly here tonight. That pretty much wraps up the agenda. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018. Adjourned.